What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fantasy Football Outpost. This is our week 6 of the 2020 football season, start of the week. I'm Dallas.
And I'm Jay. What's going on, everybody?
And as we announced at the end of our episode 13 for this week, we are now making this an individual, like 5-6 minute segment because I know a lot of people, this is the content that they're trying to go find and they want to be able to have quick access to it. So that's what we're here for. So I'll go ahead and let Jay kick off our starts of the week.
Yeah, so our first position is our quarterback. My start of the week is Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Chargers. I know typically the Chargers have have had a great pass defense, but with Derwin James being one big guy that's out, big players out, and I'm sure there's other, just they're not synchronized. He's a great play for me. They are right now our 28th against the quarterback for fantasy. So I'm also go. I'm not quite sure if I'd say Devontae Parker or Preston Williams for as far as the receiving core, but or Gasecki, but somebody's gonna have a great big week. So I'm taking Fitzpatrick this week for my quarterback.
Yeah, Miami's one of those places where, like, I've not hesitated Fitzpatrick, but I hesitate every single week on which one of the targets is going to be the one that actually does something. Is it going to be Preston Williams, Parker, Jasicki? Don't know. But the good answer is that it will be Fitzpatrick. So
Right.
my
Yeah.
starting quarterback of the week is Ben Roethlisberger. He plays Cleveland this week. They've been in shootouts so far. I don't know if the Pittsburgh's going to necessarily score as much as they have recently because their defense is a lot better than the teams that Cleveland has faced previously. That being said, this is an in-division matchup, so everybody usually steps up for that anyway. But the whole point in this is that Ben Roethlisberger has been killing it. We weren't sure kind of how he was going to be coming off that injury. He looks like he's not missed a step. He's got an amazing wide receiver core that he can throw to. So I don't hesitate starting Ben Roethlisberger this week if you're trying to decide between him and somebody else.
Yeah, and later on, I almost was Ben Roethlisberger, but you'll see why I still stuck with somebody from the Pittsburgh game for the exact same reason that Dallas mentioned.
Yep.
That takes us to our running backs. You're going up against the Giants. Who's your running back? Yeah,
My running back is Antonio Gibson, which is really ironic for a conversation we're having right now in the league. But Antonio Gibson, I think, is poised to break back out again. He had a breakout week 2 weeks ago, and we kind of got to see, and then he fell off this past week, so people are starting to think, oh, it was fake. It didn't actually happen. The Giants aren't the worst defense in the league against run. That being said, they're horrible against the pass, but they are kind of like the middle of the pack on the backside when it comes to run defense. And so what I think is going to happen is another candidate. We didn't choose him for either of our wide receivers, but Terry McLaurin should have a pretty good week this week as long as the quarterback play is not abysmal there. But that being said, that should open up things for Gibson to be able to get out there and get those big time plays that he's starting to look like that guy that's going to has those big, like a Raheem Mostert. You see him almost every single week has some big play that does something. He's going to have those little short slot catches that he catches, a little coming out from the backfield, a little dump off, especially if Alex Smith is the starter. He loves dumping it off to the running back. And then the lane should be opened up for him too because I look for them to do really well in the passing game. So this is something, Antonio Gibson for me is somebody that I think you should start this week, no hesitation, and he's going to deliver on that.
Yeah, another guy in that same kind of like middle, our back side of that RB2 tier is Devin Singletary. And I don't know if I've ever said to start Devin Singletary. As far as dynasty, I'm not a huge good guy, a fan of him. But this week against Kansas City, I think he's a good play here. Kansas City is not big great against the run. Jacobs was very efficient against them last week, and also Devontae Booker. Overall, the Las Vegas Raiders running backfield just really just dominated the Chiefs last week. And so I really see with the question marks about Zach Moss. I believe he's playing this week, but just coming back that and then TJ Yeldon may be contributing somewhat this year for this week for the Bills. I think Singletary is just a great play for running back if you have that decision to make. I wouldn't start him over some of the top tier guys. I'm not picking him over any of the RB1s, but if he's on your roster and you're unsure he's the guy, definitely would play this week.
All right, so that takes us to our wide receivers. My wide receiver start of the week is Kenny Golladay. He's playing Jacksonville, poised to have a really big week. He's not really let anybody down. I mean, he was injured at the beginning, but when he came back, he's not blown up either. And I look for this to be the week where he kind of returns to that form where he drops the big game that reminds you he is a wide receiver one, because he's just kind of been getting you great weeks. You definitely are happy with him. but they haven't been what you spend on him weeks. And so he's somebody that I think he's going to return your investment this week and actually have a really big game.
Yeah, and my wide receiver, as Dallas mentioned earlier, the Pittsburgh and Cleveland game is Juju. I know Claypool had that monster week next week, and then seeing that Deontay is, I believe, is out again for the week. I think this is a big week for Juju because Claypool was a monster, and I think for him, I mean, he thinks he wants to be the guy on that team, and I think that he's really going to step up to where people, oh, Claypool is the best receiver in Pittsburgh. Juju seems kind of the guy that takes that stuff a little bit personal, and I think the combination between him and Ben and playing in Cleveland, I think it's going to be a big offensive week for Pittsburgh all around, which is why I love Roethlisberger as Dallas's quarterback. But I think Juju is going to have a big week for our receiver. He's a big target. Probably going to be a high scoring affair. Mayfield's probably not a terrible choice either as far as this week, but I mean, Pittsburgh defense is pretty stout. But I think the fact that Cleveland's defense is not that fantastic, you're going to have some points put on the board. And so I think Juju's a great pick. He's probably the number one receiver I'd pick out of that Pittsburgh offense this week, regardless of Claypool's insane week last week.
Well, one thing that we got to ask, like, kind of how we think it's going to play out there. And one thing I was going to bring up is that Claypool's going to get attention this week. Mm-hmm. I mean, he scored 4 touchdowns last week. He is now on people's radar. He has been planned for all week, and I think what's going to happen, they're going to see Deontay out, and I still think Claypool will have a good game. I mean, I think he's going to get 10 to 15 points, get you solid to where if you start him, he didn't cost you the week. But I think this is going to be one where Juju, anytime Juju has any attention pulled away from him, he feasts on it, and then reminds teams exactly why they double cover him and just have him follow the entire game, shadowed by their best corner, because Juju is immensely talented, and anytime you get any kind of reason to pull attention away from him, like they will this week, and a lot of attention is going to be on Claypool, Juju's going to burn him. And then, unfortunately, next week, Juju's probably going to be bad again because everybody's going to remember, oh, yeah, we covered that guy. And but this is going to be one of those weeks where Juju has a really good week, and I think everybody's attention is set on Claypool and that big breakout. I mean, you even seen it on TV where, like, it's not just fantasy related. They're talking about how he's emerging as a star. It's just one of those where I think pump the brakes a little bit on Claypool. He's going to be really, really good, very solid player, but he's not better than Juju. Let's be real. And hopefully, defenses think he is, and they just cover him, and that opens everything up for Juju like we think it will.
And that leads us to our tight end. So the tight end, we actually debated a lot about this because this is just a rough week for tight end all the way around. You have your top tier guys that you weren't thinking about not starting in the first place. And then beyond that is just kind of this minefield of tough matchups, inconsistent play to where it's really hard. And so I actually landed on the same tight end I had last week's Evan Ingram. He had a couple of plays last week that got called back that really just kind of downed his week. But overall, I think it's going to be a strong week for him playing against Washington, who's 28th against tight ends this season. And so with a lot of the uncertainty in that New York Giants wide receiver core, who's going to be the guy that shows up, and Barkley still being out. Freeman's been a lot more of an option in the past week, but I think they're going to rely on Ingram. He's a guy that I would definitely start if you're trying to figure out. I mean, you got a couple guys on bye. If you're not starting the Waller, Kelsey, Kittle combination, just something you can look at this week. The other guy that I would definitely be starting is Dallas's tight end for this week.
Yeah. Mine, I'm going back into the pool of Jonnu Smith. I've been just beating that drum all year. Jonnu is the only reason I'm putting him on here because a lot of people will be like, well, yeah, of course, you see the game he had last week. He's done nothing but liver all year. We're not questioning that. Some people might be because of the matchup. Against Houston, it's not the greatest in the world. It's kind of middle of the road. And there's definitely some lower tier guys that are going against really, really good matchups. And people might be trying to still roll the dice and guess and play that guessing game because tight ends are very difficult to kind of predict. You have the obvious ones, and then once you get past that, it's very difficult, and that's what made this week really hard because people like, Rudolph and Irv Smith had great matchups this week. I'm not starting either of them, and so it just makes it really, really difficult. Somebody down low is going to have a good week. It could be Higbee out of nowhere. You literally can never tell, and so you try to find. We're trying to give you the best options that aren't obvious. Like, I'm not going to come out in here and tell you to start Travis Kelce. Like, you shouldn't be told that. And so we ironically. Both, like, I didn't have Jonnu last week, but I've had Jonnu multiple times on this show and he's got the same one from last week. And if you actually watched, to kind of defend a little bit on Evan Ingram, if you actually watched the game, Evan Ingram had a touchdown called back. He had multiple times where catches, penalties caused things not to work out. He got pulled for a little bit, and so it's just one of those where it just kind of was an unfortunate game that he was playing very well, and the team was going to him, and he looked great. Wasn't his touchdown a rush, the one he got?
I think so.
It wasn't even a catch, and it was an end around, and so like he outran everybody to the outside as a tight end. So his athleticism is back. So like worrying that the injury still bugging him, that's gone. So he looks great. Absolutely start Evan Ingram as well. So that has been our start of the week. Make sure if you guys have any questions about who to start, hit us up on Twitter at Pick on the Block and at DallasFFO. Also at the FF Outpost. Just mention us in any of it. And the second we see it, we'll get back to you. We're both on it pretty frequently. So
good luck this week.
Yep. All righty. Well, you guys have a good one. We'll see you.
All right. See you guys.